How quickly you forget as you near retirement.
Please, have a seat.
No.
It's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Ken, if you could do a roll call.
Sure. Blackburn,
Present.
Hageman. Here. Hedge, Howard,
Here.
Jones,
Present.
Craybill, Mashigian.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum with 5.
Okay. Thank you. Next, I'd like to ask for a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is the approval of the regular council meeting minutes from June 24th, 2024. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is public comments for anything not on the published agenda. Seeing none, we're going to move to discussion topics. First discussion topic is the Police Department Monthly Report. Chief Roberts is here.
Good evening, everybody. I don't have a lot to add to our written report that you have. As you could see from it, there's not much changes from month to month, a lot of traffic-related offenses and things like that. I do want to mention 4th of July weekend. That's not on your report. It was very quiet. One of the quietest I think I've seen since I've been here as chief. I think we had a grand total of 2 fireworks complaints all weekend, which is amazing. We usually
Wow.
get 12 or 15 or 20 of them. So a lot of people must have been out of town. It's the only thing we think there was too, because of our house checklist was huge as well. So anyway, I just want to let you know that the 4th of July weekend was very quiet, knock on wood, and we hope to keep it that way. I also want to mention an update quickly on the South American Chilean burglary cruise, because it's been in the news again lately. Not because there has been any burglaries. There has not been anywhere in the area that we're aware of. But I understand that presidential candidate Trump actually mentioned that in his speech yesterday or the day before in Grand Rapids, when he was doing a campaign event there. He actually mentioned Oakland County and the number of South American burglaries that have been happening in Oakland County. So I just, in case somebody saw that and was concerned, we have not had any recently, not in the last few months. So I just wanted to update everybody on that. And then lastly, I will just say this is my last Bingham Farms Council meeting. I'm retiring next month, as you all know, and I will be gone before the next one. So I just wanted to say thank you all very much for supporting the police department during my 12 years as chief. It's been fantastic. I've enjoyed working with all of you, and I appreciate the support you've given the police department. So thank you very much. And I will be around. I'm hopefully not dying, so I'll still be in the area. And you'll probably see me out and about, but just not as police chief. So
That would be nice.
Well,
So-
thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to work with you.
Any questions for me on the report? So happy to answer them if there is.
We're going to get back to you next month.
Yeah. I'll get back to you next month. Right. Kurt will. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Chief.
so much. Next is our Fire Department Monthly Report with Chief Everbuck.
Good evening. You also have our written report. There really isn't much to add. We've been working on maintenance issues with fire trucks and the building, and providing some much needed updates to the water system and our security system. We did have a fire in June on Cheviot Hills in the village of Franklin. I really am not going to comment on that because that is still under investigation with the Oakland County Fire Investigation Unit, which is part of the Sheriff's Office. Needless to say, we spent the entire night there. It was a Friday night, and we had assistance from 7 different fire departments and Southfield Police. Wow. So we were very fortunate to have the ability and the willingness of other agencies to support us, and we hope Hopefully, we'll never have to return the favor, but we will be glad to if we're requested. So, pending your questions, that'll conclude my report.
What is the protocol? Because you don't have hydrants.
Right.
So when you have, I drove by.
Yeah.
And my son lives a block away.
Okay.
And so my little grandchildren had seen it and they wanted to show it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, it's like a horror story.
Yeah.
The-
In terms of the response or the house after?
No, I mean, looking at the house, it
Mhm.
just is a wreck. But what is the protocol for water? If you don't have hydrants, you have water trucks?
So with that one, our fire department maintains two, what we call pumper tankers. So it has a fire pump which supports the needs of Bingham Farms, but it also has a larger water tank, so it supports the need of Franklin. What we did at that house with the support of Franklin Police Department was we shut down 13 Mile Road between Telegraph and Franklin Road. And that allowed us the opportunity to have the trucks being able to deliver water. So what they ended up doing was they drove from the hydrant a half a mile to Cheviot Hills and 13 Mile Road. Then they pumped that water down a supply line, a 4-inch supply line, to our two trucks that we were using. And then once the water was pumped, they would turn around and go back. So that's what we did. There is a number of, I'm going to say there's some, not a number, there are some issues that we faced that evening with regard to firefighting. But it would be really important not to just mention what it looked like at the end, but to say for those within Franklin, within Bingham Farms, to have a good fire alarm system that is monitored. If you're at home, these folks were home. The homeowner was present when the fire occurred. They were the first to notice it, and they called 911 as quickly as they could. But it's important to have a proper alarm system. It's important to have it maintained. And this gets into some of the frustrations that we have in the fire department when people are renovating homes, sanding floors, sanding walls, doing things that create dust that coat detector sensors and either render them inoperable or coat them. Either way, they're inoperable, either broken or they won't alarm when they need to. Plus having an alarm system that covers a good majority of the house, both the living spaces and those void spaces, attics, and other areas that might not have human occupancy just because of renovations or things like that. That's really important to have the system, to understand the system, to maintain the system.
I'm familiar with mine went off during construction, and it was the basement sensor,
Right.
and it was because of all the dust down there.
Do you live in the Bingham Woods, or do you live in a house in
Yes.
the village? So the reason I ask is because basements are unique in that basements typically have higher humidity levels, so it requires a different type of sensor. So it could have alarmed because of the construction. It could have alarmed because of the humidity.
I have dehumidifiers going all the time, 2 of them down.
Okay.
So I try to address that.
Okay.
But isn't there a detector that detects heat?
Yes, absolutely. So there are smoke detectors which look at the density of air.
Right.
So that way when you're sanding a floor, when you're sanding a wall, the detector senses that dust as akin to smoke. A heat detector is temperature alone. So typically you'd put a heat detector in an area like an attic, a garage, a laundry room, or an area where you typically are going to have a higher level of dust, but not necessarily heat. So yes, they absolutely are made.
So you need both.
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Can we ask a question? I'm Maggie Van Camp on Bristol Court.
Okay.
If you don't have hydrants, which I know you don't in Franklin,
You do.
oh, I know, I'm right in front of my house. Right in front of my house.
Yes.
If Southfield comes, how do they help you? They have pumper trucks.
So,
How can another fire department help you if you don't have hydrants?
so it depends on what the need is. So in terms of trucks that carry water, for your question, we pick other departments that have trucks that are similar in style and structure. So you would have seen, had you been out there, you would have seen trucks from Lyon Township, from Highland Township, from Commerce in West Bloomfield.
Because they have tankers.
Right, but you would have also seen fire trucks from Beverly Hills and Troy, which supplied personnel, and Troy also allowed us to use their air truck. So that way we could refill our breathing apparatus.
Can I ask a question, and you don't have to answer it? It's to you.
It's their meeting, I'm just,
It was notified that somebody had said somewhere that I had heard that if you look, you don't want to buy a house in Franklin, because if it catches fire, you're going to lose it.
well, then,
So-
okay. Everyone
So
has
how
the right
many-
to an opinion.
I agree. I
Okay.
agree. And like I said, you don't have to answer this. I'm just presenting this. If in all the fires you've had,
Yes.
have you been able to save some of the houses?
Absolutely.
That's all I want to know.
Absolutely, and I would say this, if you live in the northern part of California and want to build your house on top of a mountain, plan on that burning. If you want to live in an area in the middle of a forest where no one can see your house from the street, plan on that burning.
I agree.
So there are so many different factors that come to play, and that's, but they bring up a good point. And the point is, if you're going to live in an area that has additional, I'm not going to call it a hazard, but other factors that could go against you, well, you do what you can to eliminate those risks. Having a good alarm system, having it cover not just the $99 feature will protect your doors from intrusion and will give you a smoke detector. You really have to, if you're going to spend $1 million on a house, well, spend some money on an alarm system. So maintain those systems, and that's wherever you live. It's just simple, that's
I'm glad to hear it.
reasonableness.
I'm
Yeah.
glad
And I heard that rumor too, and it's a wonderful rumor. They can also talk about the fact that we're a combination department and we don't have full-time staff. I do have full-time staff, but I don't have the same level of staff that, say, the city of Detroit does, or even the city of Southfield. We don't have multiple fire stations like Bloomfield Township has, or Troy. But at the same time, within Oakland County, we have a very robust mutual aid system.
That's wonderful.
And we had 8 departments, 7 fire departments, 1 police department. We had 41 firefighters on scene throughout the entire evening, from 10:09 until I think we last cleared at 4:30.
So where do you
in the
fill
morning.
the tankers?
13 Mile and Telegraph,
Oh, okay,
right here.
at the hydrant.
Yeah. So, but, if you look at the west side of Oakland County, the north end of Oakland County, they're in the same predicament. They're the same situation. And so they work together. We're a little unique because those around us have the infrastructure. But no, I won't tell them they're wrong, but I certainly won't agree with their opinion. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Not that he needs defense, but I think I was the first one on the scene of that most recent house fire, just because I happened to be in the area at the time that the call came in. And I was the first one there. The fire was already through the roof in the garage. The garage was completely engulfed in flame. So, you're starting from a very poor position. It's a little bit unfair to say that's what the house looks really bad now. Well, you should have seen it that night before we even got there, really.
Right.
It was through the roof.
So and along those lines, if you look at the house where you said it looked whatever, okay, actually look at the damage, the burn pattern. So yes, the garage was involved. The fire started adjacent to the garage in that area, so that was impacted by fire. And if you look at the top, yes, that was impacted because if you
Went up through the attic.
Right, go
Yeah, it
through any
traveled through the
residential
attic.
home,
Yep.
and you will see there are
Yep.
no fire stops in an attic. So once it gets up in the attic, it goes across.
Yep.
The rest of the house didn't burn, but we used so much water that what the fire didn't damage, the water did. And
Sure.
it wasn't for a lack of not using it. However, to go back to your question, I can recall a lightning strike in Franklin. Franklin Road south of 13, where we got the information very quickly. We arrived on scene very quickly. We got the fire out. And there was damage, yes, because the house was hit by lightning. But needless to say, it didn't burn. They didn't leave for whatever. We had a fire in Bingham Farms in February. It was a very small fire in an area between a family room and a garage because of the smoke issues. They're not living in the house right now while it's being remediated. But there are so many different factors to say, whether you should or you should not, but, case by case basis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Moving to the manager's report. We have a couple
thank-
items.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I have a couple of things I wanted to mention. The Bingham Farms Elementary School met with some folks today from the district, as well as a couple of weeks ago. They have paid their engineering escrow. They're actually going to be building an addition onto the north side of the school. It's between 11 and 12,000 square feet, and I think he said 6 classrooms. That should be starting in the spring. I just wanted to let everyone know. I appreciated them coming in and talking with me about it. The second thing is, I got a notice yesterday, which I didn't open to this morning, from Eileen Harrivan. She is the Southfield Township clerk, and I'm just going to read it verbatim. Hello, we are urgently in need of poll workers. Last Monday, 10 folks stepped away for various reasons, including many experienced precinct chair people. While I gained a few, more dropped out as the week wore on. There were 12 poll worker vacancies. And if there's anybody interested in pursuing this, I would suggest calling Eileen Harrivan at Southfield Township. Her direct number is 248-540-3420, and this is for everyone that's here and everyone that's watching. Again, 248-540-3420, and if you want more information, you can always call us and we can redirect you that way as well. If anybody's looking for something to do for elections, this might be it.
Did they give you any dates?
No, there's no dates on here. I'm assuming
August 6th.
it's both primary and general, but I don't know that for a fact.
I've been doing it for years, and it's just 3 days a year maybe if there's extra elections, but otherwise it's primary and election day.
It's a long day.
Oh, it's a very long day. Really long. And it gets longer as I get older. Yes.
Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to move to the Economic Development Coordinator Administrative Assistant report. Evgeny?
Not too much to add on the report. I've been wearing my deputy treasurer hat the past few weeks because it's tax season. Little update on our restaurant vacancies. According to what we saw on the status of the permits for the Noodles and Company space, they are still working on the renovation, so hopefully once that's done, the restaurant that's lined up to go in there will not waste any time.
And the other restaurant.
The Mandaloon, we haven't heard any updates on that one yet. Presumably they're working on whatever they need to work on to get set up, but no updates yet.
Okay. Thank you. Under new business, we have the amendment to Stormwater Maintenance Ordinance first reading. Ken, would you like to introduce us?
Sure. In your packet is a memo and a current ordinance that the village has and a draft ordinance that I asked Dirk to prepare. So let me just read through this. I don't like reading verbatim, but I'm going to do it anyway because this is it's not that long and it's kind of important. The village's stormwater system consists of a series of culverts, ditches, technically called swales, and beehive drains that transport stormwater to the Franklin and Rouge Rivers. Ordinance sections 96.011 currently reads as follows. Property owners are responsible for the care and maintenance of the culvert under their private drives so as not to impede drainage. The ordinance does not address responsibility for the care and maintenance of the stormwater ditches that run along the streets in front of homes. Driveway culverts and the ditches are within the village-owned right-of-way, and residents regularly request that the village clean out leaves, weeds, lawn clippings, trash, and other accumulated debris. As council is aware, the village contracts with Johnson Landscaping and the Village of Beverly Hills for public works services of this type, and there is a monetary cost associated with the efforts of both entities. I've instructed the village attorney to draft an amendment to section 96.011 attached to this memo. that specifically assigns care and maintenance of stormwater ditches to property owners. I believe the amendment is practical for several reasons. Number one, it is common practice for municipalities to assign this responsibility to homeowners. Number two, it eliminates ambiguity regarding responsibility. Number three, it encourages sensible stormwater maintenance. Number four, most ditch debris can be removed with a rake and other common lawn garden tools. And finally, most ditch debris can be disposed in yard waste bags, which are collected weekly throughout the warm weather months. This amendment would have no effect on the common practice of homeowners discharging sump pump stormwater into the ditches. If trustees have no objections or concerns, discussion at the July 22nd, 2024 council meeting, that's now, can serve as the amendment's first reading. A second reading and approval would occur at council's August 26, 2024 meeting. And attached again is the current ordinance and the amended ordinance. Does anybody have any questions they would like to discuss? Yes?
I do. The one issue is that for my drain to drain, I've got two other neighbors that need to keep their ditches clear.
Mm-hmm.
And one, the front yard is all natural. And older shrubs at the edges, and the limbs fall and break into the ditch and the leaves, and I go for walks and it's all clogged up with this stuff. And several times I've taken a longer stick and I try to loosen and get it out of the ditch, because I know that's the only way that mine, because at the culvert's right in front of my house, it goes underneath the road.
Mm-hmm.
So it's our responsibility, but yet if one neighbor, and I'm not saying it's intentional, I mean, a lot of neighbors don't pay attention to it, that mine's not going to drain because theirs is clogged. What kind of action should we take? Anything?
Well, this would address that, and we would, if the ordinance, if the amendment is approved, then we could mail something out to everybody.
Okay, so it'd
let
be
them know.
mandated that residents keep them clear.
It's their
Not just that it's your responsibility, but that you have to act on it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you, Derek.
And it says that?
It doesn't, well, I don't think, you can't mandate that, can you?
Yeah, it says they shall be responsible for the care and maintenance of all stormwater ditches, and they shall keep such stormwater ditches in a condition free of waste, dirt, plant growth, and other obstructions which block or obstruct the design flow of stormwater in the ditches. So that's a mandate.
Okay.
They have to.
Okay.
It doesn't say mandate, but it's a mandate. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
well, I mean, I still have to work at mine because it gets a lot of grass in it.
Well, then that's part of the philosophy of a stormwater system, like, well, any system. It's only as good as the flow downstream. So if downstream is backed up, it just won't go, right? And without getting into the whole thing of we need to have ditches maintained, and part of the roads project would be dealing with the stormwater system. So I get that. Some of them are shallow over time. That needs to be addressed. But in the meantime, I don't think it takes too much effort to clean these out from time to time.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Are you finished?
Oh, yeah. No,
So what do we currently do when the residents request that the village clean out weeds and stuff?
I informed them that we do not do that.
Okay.
Otherwise, that's why otherwise it would cost us dollars.
Right, so we don't currently incur those charges,
No.
it's just, it doesn't get done.
Right. Well, we informed them, and I presume someone would take their own action.
Okay.
If we're cleaning them out themselves or having their landscape company do it.
Okay, and so the second question then was just to make sure that we legally can do this. Even though it's a right-of-way, it's not
Yes.
their property, we can
Yes, it's
require
the same, it's the
them.
same kind of concept that applies to sidewalks. Right, where you have a sidewalk which is in a right-of-way, but ordinances require property owners to maintain those sidewalks. So yes, you can absolutely do this. I was surprised, frankly, that your community didn't already have this.
Okay.
Because so many communities do.
Okay, thanks. And the third thing you sort of touched on was I know, although I don't know the specifics, that in some of the road renewal construction programs, there is money set aside for some kind of like drainage issues. Is this the same kind of issue, or is that different, do you know? Or, I mean,
Well,
I'm trying to figure out how the two, like,
draining the road, the under drains and whatnot that the engineers discussed, that's part of the project. The ditches along the side of the road are
not.
connected, are also connected, and some of the stormwater planning and some of the engineering contingencies include that exact same thing.
okay.
Yes.
But it wouldn't be, like, the road plans are not to, like, clear out the ditches or anything like that. They're to deal with the drainage under the roads.
And also to deepen the ditches
Okay.
where they need to be done. And that depends on where you are and how the water flows, and where each house is. If you follow my meeting, they have different topographical elements, different properties.
I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that's an engineering feat.
Yes.
I mean, because from the Reinhardts, which are no longer the Reinhardts, the Tabbits, from their house, 4 houses down, as the engineer pointed out to me, there's an 8-foot drop.
It is pretty lot. That's a
Yeah,
lot.
that goes right down to the little tributary to probably the Rouge. So any one of those houses that doesn't keep it clear is, it depends on, everybody's got to cooperate.
Right.
Yeah.
Trustee Howard, did you have a question?
I'm just looking at the engineering report where it says ditch cleanout, reestablishment as needed, and this is on Bingham Lane, Kathy.
Okay.
And it's $1,000, and then under drain cleanout. Does anyone understand what that under drain cleanout?
That's the one that goes underneath the road.
Okay, not in
I
the,
think I'm correct, yeah. So you have drainage on one side, it goes underneath the road and then continues further down.
A cleanout is not a culvert, though. A
Well,
cleanout
it's-
is the
But
access
that's
to.
cleaning
That's the
out
action,
those-
cleaning it out.
Cleaning it
That's
out.
what they mean.
Yeah.
They're cleaning it
Oh,
out.
okay.
Yeah.
There is a cleanout to all sewer drains that go out to the road. They have cleanouts along the road, the yard.
Right.
but I guess I'm
access.
They're
asking.
saying cleaning it out.
Yeah, okay.
Cleanout is one thing, but fixing something that is not at the right grade level, I don't know that that's in here.
It is in there.
It is there?
Mhm.
Okay. If you could point that out to me at some future
Yeah,
time.
sure,
I'd
sure.
appreciate that,
Mhm.
okay.
I've got 2 questions. One, did the planning commission ever get a look at this, or was they consulted on this at
At
all?
this?
On this?
No, they were
Okay.
not.
And number 2, and it's kind of caught me, what is the street administrator? Or who is the street administrator? We talk about a street administrator.
Well, someone is appointed to that position.
I saw it in there, and I go,
At
okay,
the-
who
at
is
the
it?
be- At the beginning of council terms, like in November, someone sort of appointed to that position.
I thought maybe you had another title, but I...
But for all intents and purposes, I mean, when I say someone, it's one of you, one of the council members.
Okay.
But for all intents and purposes, we handle these things day to day.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was all I had.
So if everyone is in general agreement that we will have this on the agenda for the next meeting, second reading for voting and moving forward.
If I think I read in there someplace they have 90 days or something to comply to fix it.
Right.
Okay.
That's Mr. Tan.
Do you have a comment on this?
I'd like to just ask a question.
Okay, if you could step, is it on this topic?
Yes.
Okay, if you could step to the podium and say your name and address.
Not easy.
Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Louis Tan, 23550 Shagwood. And my question is, what is the enforcement mechanism for this type of an issue?
Go ahead, Derek.
It'd be a ticket, a citation.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other discussion on this? So we will see this next month
Yes.
as a second reading.
Yes.
Thank you for
Thank you, everybody.
realizing it was an issue and getting that done. Thank you also, Dirk. Moving to old business. We are going to discuss road funding and the special assessment district steps that we need to take. Did you want to introduce it
Yeah.
and then hand it to Dirk?
Yeah, but Dirk and I have been talking on the phone about this last month or so, on and off, and I think that we should have a discussion about the next steps and how we go forth with them, and Dirk is the best person to lead that discussion. And I want this all on the record, of course, and recorded, so that when the public views this, they see where we're going with this whole project. So Dirk, if you wouldn't mind just kind of walking us through the process, and then answering any questions either from the folks here at the table or from the folks in the audience.
I think the process is less important. It's important, but I think what we really need here is clarification as to how we approach the SADs. So, as you will recall, at the last meeting, there was approval of a 1 mil increase from 9 mils to 10 mils, which were to be used for roads for a period of 10 years, and then the second component of that was to create a number of SADs, and that is one of the clarifications that we need that's referred to in Ken's memo to kind of supplement the money that's to be raised by the mills. The process, the general process is to create an SAD. Council can either do it by a petition or on its own motion. Clearly, we're going to do it under our own, the council's own motion. If you would adopt a resolution that we would present to you, that would basically require the city staff to prepare a report. And in that report, there would be an estimate of what the cost was, what the project is, as well as what portion of the city the SAD would apply to. Once you pass that resolution, and in that same resolution, you would also set the first public hearing, which would be the hearing on necessities. So that would be the first resolution you would adopt, would do those three things. You would then hold the public hearing on necessity. There are 2 public hearings, so that would be the first public hearing. Once you've held the public hearing on necessity, then the next step would be to go out for bids to actually tie down exactly what the cost of that particular project is going to be. Then you would have a special assessment roll prepared, and once the special assessment roll is prepared, then you would have the second public hearing, which is a public hearing confirming the special assessment roll. All that stuff I've been doing for years, not difficult necessarily, but as Ken raised in his memorandum, there are some clarifications we need to do so that hopefully at the next meeting I can bring back to the village council the first resolution that would, again, require the report to be prepared, project cost, estimated project cost, specify the streets you want included, and schedule the first public hearing. So, but to do that, we need to answer the items that Ken has raised with the red highlighting in his memo. Mm-hmm. And the first one was, which SAD should the village create first? As you recall, the motion that was passed last time basically decided that we were going to start with roads north of 13 Mile Road, the SADs, and the improvements themselves. And it referred back to proposal number 5 from the very extensive report that was prepared by the Roads Committee. But SAD number 1 and proposal number 5 was roads only south of 13 Mile Road. So obviously that would not be one of the SADs we would create at first. But the other ones would be, there's a second SAD which includes a number of roads including From Court. But as I understand it from Ken, From Court is potentially problematic because it's not contiguous to those roads listed. So you need to do really one of 2 things, either back From Road out of the equation or create a separate SAD consisting of From Road only. So that's really the first question you need to decide. And then the other issue that needs to be addressed, there's actually 2 other issues. SAD number 3 includes Timber Trail in the improvement of Timber Trail, but there had been discussion regarding not including Timber Trail as an improved road and converting it instead to like a walking path kind of a situation. And if that's the case, then SAD number 3, which according to proposal number 5 included Bingham Road and Timber Trail, you could back Timber Trail out of that. And I think Ken is, I don't know if he's suggesting it, but certainly mentions in his memo that it would probably be better to approach the conversion, if that's still the desire, of Timber Trail to a walking path using funds as opposed to creating an SAD for that. And then the third issue that needs to be addressed tonight is there are certain private roads, as I understand it, Woodland Drive, Bingham Court, and Bingham Point Drive. Apparently, they're all private roads that feed into Bingham Road. It's my understanding that the properties that are on those 3 private roads, the only way they can leave their properties is to drive on the private roads and then drive off onto Bingham Road. And if that's the case, they should have some responsibility for bearing some of the costs of the special assessment improving Bingham Road because they receive a benefit. Generally, in other communities that we've dealt with that kind of an arrangement, those roads would not be assessed, those properties would not be assessed a full benefit, but would be assessed a lesser benefit, 0.25, 0.5, something like that. But they would have some responsibility for some of the costs with respect to the SEDs. So those are really the 3 issues that need to be discussed and decided upon. I know that we only have 4 people here tonight, don't even need formal motions. We just need some clarification, Ken and I, so that we can proceed to put the first resolution together to bring to council at the next meeting.
You have 5.
Yeah, we have 5.
Oh, I said, I know, we're short 2.
Right.
Right.
Right, Deb's not here, and there, right.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
One of the other questions in this memo that you didn't mention was that some of the lots maybe on both Bingham Road and another one of the adjoining roads, and seemingly it might be unfair to have them have to pay 2 different special
Right.
assessments. So,
That is something you generally would not do.
right.
You would assess them once on one of the roads, but not on the other.
So, across 13 Mile, with Special Assessment District Number 1, that got handled by there just being one Special Assessment District, not only for Bristol Road, but for the 3 courts. So that like the court, the property that was on a court and also Bristol Road only got hit once.
Right. They should only get hit once.
Right, so I'm wondering, is there any, whether we could just combine Special Assessment District 2 and 3 so that the houses would only get hit once. And the reason I'm thinking that maybe we can't do that is because I think that it's going to take 2 construction seasons.
Yeah, I can't speak about the logistics of that. If you can make them contiguous, from a legal standpoint, you can combine them. It sounds like Dee maybe has an answer to the construction phasing of it, but...
Well, I was thinking, one of the things we discussed, and I think you remember, Kurt, that we were thinking of maybe 2 and 3 being combined, and therefore, because you have the tributaries, which is in District 2, to the main street, which is in District 3. You have to do 2 before you can do 3, but as you were saying, you could combine the whole thing, and therefore everybody gets basically hit at the same time. Whether we have it for 8 years, 10 years, or what have you.
And keep in mind, you can combine them, but phase the construction.
Well, that's
As long as they're relatively close in time, it could be a year apart. You just can't phase it like 5 years apart.
okay. That was my question, because I knew it
Yeah.
had to be pretty close together. I didn't know whether it had to be in the same.
But in that scenario, it might make sense to combine those 2, sure.
Yeah.
Right, that was sort of what I was thinking. My recollection from our discussion last meeting, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, but we decided not to do Fromm Road with the other roads because it was not contiguous, and there were, my understanding, Dirk, some legal problems with that. So my recollection is we pretty much all agreed that Fromm Road was not going to be in number, I guess it would have been 2,
Yeah.
SAD 2. And quite frankly, I just looked it up. That's like almost like the newest road in the village. And I think, except for the end of it, is in pretty good shape. So I don't really think that's going to be a problem to not include that one. In terms of the Timber Trail thing, I guess I just never thought that, I mean, the reason Timber Trail was put together with Bingham Road is that we thought that there was some benefit in terms of trying to get that grant in putting the two together.
If they were able to get the grant, but
Right.
it's,
But I don't, I mean, like, I never even thought about the fact that we would be asking Timber Trail people to,
there's only one person that's on Timber, that is access through Timber Trail, there we go,
There's one address.
There's two.
one.
I drove down Timber Trail today, and as you come off of Hickory, heading west, there's a house buried in the back. That's the one.
That's the only
But
one.
as you reach the intersection of Timber Trail and Bingham Road, one house enters from Bingham Road, and they exit their driveway onto Timber Trail.
Yeah. But their address is Bingham Road.
I know, but,
Yeah.
but their access onto onto Timber Trail would then be denied if Timber Trail became a walking trail, right?
Or you could do that 100 feet of Timber Trail.
But you'd have to do it on both ends then, for the house that's there.
We would knock it down to a walking path sort
Path.
of in between those two, so
Right.
they would still have access to the driveways. We wouldn't cut off their access.
Okay.
so I just to finish my thought, I'm not really like into like having the one or two people in Timber Trail that are not even getting a road have to pay the special assessment. I'm fine with them not doing it. I don't know what.
That was my question. Who's going to pay for Timber Trail? If,
To convert it to the walking path?
yeah.
Ken,
Just, I would, it's, I don't want to say only, because that's not really fair, but it's a relatively small amount of money. It's $325,000. We have
Oh, is that all?
We have money in our general fund, and
No, I'm teasing.
my other, I
I'm
know. The other aspect of this, it doesn't have to be done instantly, of course, right?
Right.
The other aspect of this, and this is just my perception, this is not necessarily set in stone, but if you're funding something through a special assessment district, and then you apply for a grant, but you already have a funding process set up, a mechanism set up, I mean, that hurts your chances to get the grant.
Yeah.
That's why I would say that's my suggestion. Now, you don't have to take it, of course, is just appeal that portion of this whole project out of the concept of the special assessments. Mm-hmm. The other thing, and this is just a hypothetical, depending on how people draw up special assessments, I mean, a lot of folks, including you, Kathy, have property that border your Bingham Lane and Timber Trail, and I would hate to double assess you.
Well, you know, I wasn't going to say anything, but that is the nature of why I'm asking. You know, you nailed it.
And you're not the only one. I mean, just,
I know there are 5 homes.
Yeah, and then there's Old Orchard Trail, people who have backyards and back
Yes.
up
That's
too.
right.
And that's just, to me, strikes me as
Well, but look,
excessive.
what about the houses on corners? We have houses that are on Bingham Lane, and they also have property on Bingham Road.
they would just be assessed once with one benefit, one unit of benefit. So
Their main address.
for
And I would do it by address, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, we could do it just by address?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then Kathy would only get hit once?
Only get hit once.
Yeah, and my neighbors that have corner lots, it would depend on whether they're on Bingham Lane or Bingham Road, whether they're on Old Orchard or Bingham Road.
Is it fair to say then that we could back out Timber Trail and combine SAD 2 and 3 into 1?
Well, do you have to combine SADs 2 and 3
don't.
into 1?
You don't have to. It's just, if it makes it, I think, if you can make them contiguous,
Well,
it's
they are
easier.
contiguous, I think. aren't they?
But you'd be collecting money a little bit sooner.
But can we stage the collection of money based on construction starts?
You'd have to make them separate to do that. You would have to make it separate to do that. If you wanted them to, yes.
And if
You could combine them and stagger the construction, but you'd have to be collecting the same amount.
Right.
right,
So
right out of the
some
chute.
people would be collecting a little bit early because their project hasn't started yet, but then that would be made up at the end
There-
when
And those
the others-
those people aren't really penalized because the cost is what the cost is. The only, I guess if there's a penalty, it's maybe they wait 6 months
To a year.
to a year before they get their improvement,
Right,
but the cost is still the same.
Because it has to go on the tax roll.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
And
So
if
if
there-
we combine the other roads into one SAD, that puts the onus on the construction companies to get all of the work done in that SAD in a relatively short period of time.
I mean, look to these, if they can do it all at once, that's, everybody wins, because there's economies of scale there, but whether they can or they can't, I don't know, but
I just want to be clear, if we do 2 separate SADs,
Yeah.
that as is currently, each property owner still only gets hit once?
Right.
you can't, yes, you can't, yes, the answer is yes.
Well, that was the main reason I wanted to combine, was to make sure that nobody got hit twice. But I guess if we don't have to,
You don't,
It's all the legal work to get the SAD started in the first place. I think that Dirk is saying, if we could do this
that's a good point.
Yeah.
legally,
you know,
public
it's, a
hearings
lot of it's
and everything
duplicative,
else
a lot of it's
once.
duplicative, but some of it's not, so, yeah.
So no double jeopardy. No double jeopardy.
Stop.
It's probably easier from a collection standpoint for
I want to
Bill to do this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess the question to our, engineering firm is, if we did combine everything in that SAD, do they foresee having all the contracts let out and executed and everything else for the entirety of that defined SAD within whatever period of time the SAD requires us to get it done?
That answer I don't know.
Yeah.
I would think, I mean, like
The bigger the project, the more they would like it.
the way the plan was set up, it was going to be done, the side roads in year 1 and the
Main road.
main road in year 2, so I wouldn't think that would change. And maybe they could all get it all done in 1 year, I don't know.
So it sounds like, restating it then, forgetting the construction phasing for a second, combine 2 and 3, back out Timber Trail.
Really quick note on From. If we're discussing special assessing the private roads that feed into Bingham Road, if you include Woodland, From does become contiguous.
There you go.
In terms of properties that.
Property borders.
That front both roads actually meet, their backyards meet, essentially.
You can be pretty creative.
Okay.
Gerrymandering is a terrible word, but you can certainly do it as long as there's no space. I mean,
But it does apply.
but it does apply. Yeah.
Oh, there's an elementary school in the middle. What do you?
basic, backing from out with what HRC said last time is, we're not really going to get a construction company to come out and just do from.
Right.
That's too small of a job. So if we really need to try to figure out a way to get that.
So we can
Old
do that.
Stage and Coach Lake.
It's like you have said, though, then we have to include Woodland Drive, Bingham Court, and Bingham Point Drive in the SAD. Not necessarily assess them a full benefit because they're different, but include them in the SAD. You can figure out the benefit. You don't have to do that tonight, but you just have to decide conceptually, are you okay including them in the SAD? And if you are, then we can bring Frog back in.
Okay.
Then also, in the funding of this too, is the $1.5 million loan that's in Special Assessment District 2.
I did some numbers
I don't have my
today.
book. I should have
Starting out with the
Okay.
non-major roads first. And if you back out the major road fund, the non-major road fund is I'm going to just use rough numbers rather than say 1,917,000, 1.9 million, okay? And the millage increase for budget year 2024/25 would yield 195,000 plus, giving us 2.1.
Thank you.
And if we have 40 homes, let's just say, in the first SAD at $500 a home, there's another 20,000. So in the first year, we're working with $2.133 million. According to the costs, Shagwood would be $350,000, Hickory Lane, $201, Old Orchard, 333, for a total of 884. Subtracted from the 2,133,000, that would leave us $1.2 million after the first year's worth of work, getting Shagwood, Hickory, and Old Orchard done. So now you go to the millage increase revenue for 25-26, and there's a 2% increase in just the cost, or now you've got 199,000, so now you've got 1,000,004 to spend. So you take Bingham Lane next, and Bingham Lane's got an additional 26, 27 homes. So now you've got 33,000 in SAD funds, if it's staggered. Now you're working with almost 1.5 million, and Bingham Lane only costs $500,000. So you're doing these, and you still have money in the bank. You've got 968,000. And then now you come to the major road fund. Now you can throw that money in of 842 plus, because that money still earns interest for 2 years at 2%. Now you're at 876,000. So you're dealing with the major road fund and the millage, taking it up to a mill, and you've got the remainder. So you can do Bingham Road, and at the end of it, still have $500,000 left. So now you've literally got all of the roads north of 13 done. And you still have $500,000. So I don't know if we take that kind of staggered approach and do these rather conservative road repairs, that you're going to need a loan. I don't know.
You will when you get to Bristol Road.
Yeah.
When you get to Bristol Lane and Bristol Court.
Right,
But,
right, and that's sort of the way that
This would-
proposal
yeah.
5 was, the loan wasn't in the first year, it was
it's about 3 years out.
2 or 3 years out when you got to the road that was really expensive, I think it was Bristol.
And that's if you do a total PACER rating of 10 on Bristol Lane and all the courts, correct?
5 was not the total, 5 was not a total redo of Bristol.
Okay.
5 was a lesser,
Right, yeah.
lesser. 5A was a total redo. It was-
And then also, don't forget that when this was put together, District 1 was the least expensive. Then you got to Bingham Lane and so forth as special assessment District 2. Now we're talking about doing that first and then second. So basically you do all of north of 13 first, then south of 13. This was originally set up doing south of 13 first,
Right.
which is going to cost more.
Right.
I guess, the whole principle is get your PACER ratings on the worst ones done, as quickly as possible, with the exception of Bristol Lane because of the size of that project. So the majority of the roads in the village would have a refreshment, if you would. So I'm sort of in favor of that kind of approach.
At some point, we'll have to figure out what Bristol Lane people want too.
Pardon me?
Because I'm hearing more and more from Bristol Lane people that they want it done, the full reconstruction.
Oh, the full
So
reconstruction.
we'll have to figure out, have a special meeting with them to sort of figure out, we can't take a full-on vote, but we can have a meeting to sort of figure out what people want.
How many houses are on Bristol Lane?
63?
I'm not sure offhand with all the spurs. I don't know.
Somewhere around 63?
South of 13.
I could do a quick count.
Yes.
So that's a decision we don't have to make tonight.
Right, right.
So is there a consensus that we would combine SAD 1 and 2?
2 and
2 and 3.
Two and
2 and 3.
2 and 3.
Minus from
Minus from, I think,
and minus.
Timber Trail.
and minus Timber Trail.
What about including those private drives?
That's the next question, I guess.
Wait, you said backing out from. I thought we were including from.
If you include those private drives, you can include from. If you don't, then you can't make it contiguous.
Right.
You mean the private roads?
Right, yes, I'm sorry,
Okay.
private roads,
So
correct.
if we include Woodland,
Bingham Court, Bingham Point,
That we can include from.
then you can make from work. And again, those roads don't have to be assessed a full benefit like roads that are clearly on the road being improved, but they should be assessed something, whether it's a quarter or a half or.
Is there a way that we could assess them as like one driveway? In other words, Bingham Point is one house?
Yeah, you can assign any allocation you want. I mean, it could be .1. I've seen communities go as small as that.
So to be clear on that, you would suggest Bingham Point, I'm just using this as an example, is one unit, and then the 25 units in Bingham Point would divide up their one
Yeah.
into 25?
Can absolutely do that.
Okay.
Right. I'm just wondering how complicated would that make it? I mean, is it,
It happens all the time.
okay.
Happens all the time.
so if we're now discussing private roads, can we force them to pay SAD as a,
Well, this would be part of the SAD, and the only reason, it's not necessarily private road versus public road, it's private road that can't leave its property without ending up on one of the public roads being improved.
Right.
Other private roads that are not in that scenario, there'd be no basis for especially assessing them.
Right.
But these private roads, in terms of SAD, in the SAD world, they're really driveways on, and I realize there's a number of units on those driveways, but they can't get off their property and into the rest of the world without ending up on one of the roads being approved.
They have a benefit, a direct benefit.
They have some direct benefit. Is it the same as somebody that fronts of the road? Probably not.
Right.
But is there some benefit to them? Sure, there is. And again, you could assign, I think, was it Bingham Point Drive that Ken said there were 25 units on? You could give Bingham Point Drive all the addresses one benefit and divide that 25 ways. So it's, a very, very small amount would be assessed against them.
Right.
so, my thought though is when you're doing contiguous roads, that the construction costs might be less than having to pick up all that equipment and take it over to From. There's going to be a greater expense.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be doing some demo, you need the equipment to do that, and then you're going to need all your asphalt trucks, your rollers, your crews. Watched a lot of roads go in.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So I don't know that we want to connect From with the Bingham Road and north of 13.
The problem is we can't separate from.
Well, you could do a separate
Because-
SAD for From itself.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
But the
But that-
HRC said that you're not going to get a contractor to come out for one road.
That's going to be difficult.
So,
That's
So, to that, I want to add a point that I brought up in my discussions with Ken. It's actually the last bullet point there that talks about reconfiguring SADs. There was not really a good way for me to phrase that without bringing up an example, and I wanted to mention it. And Dirk, correct me if some of what I'm saying is not possible. I think as we're discussing this, we are trying to hit too many whack-a-moles at the same time because we have two processes happening at the same time. The first process is we have to figure out the SADs and how those are going to work. The second process is the engineers have to figure out the scope of work and a more detailed estimate to then go out to bid. And I think we're getting really bogged down trying to do both of those things connected
Well,
and
they're
at the
related.
same time. They are related, but my question is, do they have to be? Because when HRC is talking about economies of scale and doing similar work, it was my understanding that what you're talking about, moving the equipment and having extra cost to go from location A to location B, if they're already out in the village, they're out for a project,
Yeah,
whether it's
but
on
still
Bingham
there's
or
an
on From.
additional cost, and what I'm.
Yeah.
but
Well,
I didn't
hold on,
finish. I didn't finish.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
I'm suggesting that maybe From be part of Bristol, because it's just across 13 miles.
I had that thought too, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
not contiguous.
No, nothing's contiguous.
So therefore, it could not be the same SAD because it's not contiguous, Kathy.
Right.
You'd have to do
So-
a whole nother SAD for one street.
Yeah. So I'm more in favor of keeping from involved,
So,
just so we can get done.
Even though
and
it's
kind
not
of-
really contiguous.
It is
As
if
you
we,
said, there's a school in between.
right.
So if you don't mind letting me finish my thought here, so what I'm talking about when HRC is talking about economies of scale, one of the things they were talking about is grouping similar work together, even if it's not geographically
Right.
touching each other. So for example, roads that all need just a slurry seal are cheaper to do all together. Roads that all need a deeper reconstruction should all be done together. Those roads can be part, and correct me if I'm wrong, can be part of different SADs, even if work on multiple SADs is happening at the same time.
Sure, yeah, you can, yes.
So even though FROM might have its own SAD, it might have work getting done on it at the same time as a similar work being done on a different road from a different SAD. And that's where we can have those two processes. While they are relevant to each other, they can also be a little bit separate.
You know, look, the fewer moving parts we have, the better.
Right.
And so the best case scenario is you have one SAD if you can make that happen. And how you phase the construction can be up to HRC and this
Right.
council to decide that issue. But
Okay.
when you've got 3 different SADs or 2 different SADs, it's just, yeah, it's more complicated. If you have one SAD, you can bring in from to that one SAD. You can back out Timber Trail, and you can decide how you want to phase the construction. The one thing that will happen is you'll start assessing initially. But you don't even have to make the decision of, you know, what units to assign anybody tonight. You just have to decide conceptually as, you know, bringing these 1, 2, 3, 4 private roads into that SAD is conceptually something you could live with. You could decide later on down the line how you want to apportion and allocate the costs. But in order for me to to prepare the first resolution and bring it to you at the next meeting, we need these questions answered. And it seems like we've answered most of them, other than what to do with FROM and whether to include those private roads.
So I feel the private roads should be included at some level. They're using the road.
Yeah. Most municipalities would absolutely include them.
Right,
Maybe not give them a one benefit, give them a smaller benefit, but would include them.
right.
But again, that's only if they have to use one of the improved roads to
Right.
get out.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Do we need to decide tonight how to assess them? Like,
No,
okay,
no, you just, I need to know that you want to include them in the district and how many districts you want.
Yep.
Then I can prepare the resolutions for the next meeting.
okay,
That-
so
that
let's
begins-
start there.
Do we have a point person for those roads? Somebody that lives on it, that's like the president of their association?
No, it's,
Okay.
no.
Well, I do know the president of the Woodland Drive Association and someone on the board, I think, I can't remember his name now.
Maison.
For Bingham Point.
I can't think of
Bingham
it right
Point,
now.
I'm not sure about, but I'm sure we can figure it out. Just go knock on a few
Not
doors.
that many homes.
Yeah, right.
But I feel like this is a decision we need to make. We're either going to assess them or not assess them. Like I said, I feel like we should assess them. They're using the road. So,
That is my thought. Yeah, it doesn't have to be, as you said, we don't have to decide tonight what we do, but should they be? Absolutely, they use the road.
right.
What would you think the differential and the?
I would go half. If you're assessing everybody else 200, assess them 100.
I will tell you, DE, that's what most municipalities do, it'd be a half unit. That doesn't mean you have to do it,
Right.
but that's what most would do.
I mean, you have to remember that's being split between multiple homes.
Well, that's the question.
No, I'm thinking per.
Oh,
We were
per-
Half
thinking
per house?
I'm
That's a
thinking,
lot.
Per residence?
That's a lot, DE.
You live in the village.
And Bingham Point, uses 50 feet before they're back, they're on 13.
But if it's not there, they can't get home.
Unless they go to 14.
Yeah. But then,
They're using the road then. But I think that there might be a little pushback from Bingham Point folks.
Well, I guess we don't have to decide it tonight.
we don't have to decide that.
I would be in favor of them having one address. In other words, them having one address.
Most definitely, Kurt, I agree with that.
Both Woodland and, but that's, that's just me. And I would, it sounds like there'd be less cost if we combine the two SADs into one, so I would be in favor of that.
Yeah.
And I would be in favor of, if it's included, and then we can put From in it, then put From in it, and I guess we might as well get it done too. I think that was included in 5.
So
wasn't
there's
it?
still 2 roads that are not
Yeah.
included in any discussion. Old Stage and,
Which one is the
Coach Lake. Coach Lake.
Coach like,
Those are cement
Right.
roads.
Cement, yeah,
Yeah,
those
cement.
are concrete.
so are we not
Concrete.
putting them into any SAD?
No, because right now they're not scheduled to be redone.
Okay.
Part of the proposal 5 was, we have in the past set aside $150,000 a year for roads, and part of proposal 5 is to take that $150,000 and use it to maintain roads so that they last longer. And the thought was that maybe some of that money, after a couple of years, could be used to maintain the 2 concrete roads. So that, and the concrete's supposed to last 10 years longer than.
and it's a lot less expensive too.
And that's what the engineers were saying about From and Old Stage. They have the poorest subsoil under the road, but because it's concrete, it kind of spans whatever void space might be under there. So it's actually, they were saying that if we tear that road up, it will be a crazy high cost because we will have to remediate the subsoil.
Yeah.
But if you just replace a patch of concrete when it needs it, you're fine.
You're fine, yeah.
Okay. So that would be 2 and 3 combined into one SAD.
Back out Timber Trail,
Back out Timber Trail.
include the private roads,
Include the private
and
roads.
include From.
And include, yeah.
And include From.
If that's the consensus, we don't need a motion, we can just go forward.
Yeah.
I can prepare the resolution for the next meeting.
To play, just to be clear on this, do you foresee any issue combining local roads that are designated as local and the road that is designated as major? Okay.
Now, we jumped that hurdle at the last meeting. I expressed my concern about including Bingham Road generally, but as I mentioned, you can do it. It's just open to a little more challenge, but you can certainly do it.
Okay.
so.
Right, we still can't use the major road
Right, you have to keep the money separately.
Right.
Yeah, got it.
One question to Dirk.
Yeah.
If we consider Bingham Point and Woodland and Bingham Court all one driveway, then those at the public hearing voting for the SAD, do they just have one vote then? Or do they have?
They won't vote on the
Not
SAD.
voting.
Just the council will vote on the SAD.
We're just getting public input. They don't get a vote.
They don't get a vote on that. The council votes on that.
Okay, so I don't know where I was hearing before that you had to have 50% of the people who live on a road to agree that they're gonna pay.
That's if they do it by petition.
Pardon me?
That's if they do it by petition versus council vote.
Okay,
Or if it's a ballot proposal.
okay.
Dirk, you also mentioned that it would be easier just to create one SAD. Would that be better than to cover all 3 and yet we split it as, we think of it as 2 SADs, but you create it as one SAD?
I think you can create it as one SAD. You're going to assess everybody at the same time, so that makes life easier for the treasurer. How you phase the construction is completely up to you. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
I think that might be a better way to go.
But it's so unknown about Bristol Lane.
Right, that's my concern, is we have no idea what Bristol
Lane is gonna
Road
want.
is gonna cost, and what it's gonna want, and it's gonna definitely be, I mean, it's not like it's gonna be, like you're doing one section, here, and then the next year you're going to do the next section. It's going to be a whole different project. And we might, 3 years from now find out that we can't even do the surface resurfacing of Bristol Road. I mean, it might not be feasible anymore. And I think 2 SADs would be good.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
I was just thinking just to make it a little bit easier.
Well, I mean, yeah, I get your point, and I think we're going from 3 to 2, and that is going to make it
That
easier.
will help too, yeah.
And I actually think that, in Bristol Road, we could have done Bristol Road as an SAD and the courts as an SAD.
Right.
But we've already come, and we could have had 4, but now we're only
Yeah.
going to have 2.
And
so-
what you're doing tonight with 2 SEDs, one being, the south of 13 and one being north of 13, is pretty consistent, not pretty consistent, it's consistent with the motion you made as a council at the last meeting, so.
Yeah.
So the 2 SADs.
Dirk, if Yevgeny and I went out and dug a 2-track from Kurt's house to Lisa's house, could we then include that in the SAD? No?
No comment.
Just checking.
They vote on our contracts.
Okay, so can we go through each one to make sure you have exactly what you need?
I mean, I've got it.
You got it?
Combine SADs 2 and 3, back out Timber Trail, add the private roads above, decide the allocations later, but include from into that SAD as well.
Second
Yeah.
SAD.
Yep.
Okay.
Very good.
Just
Thank you.
A question, just quickly.
Sure.
What are we going to do about Timber Trail? You're backing it out of the current project, but what's the intention?
We're backing it out of the SAD, which means that the one guy there will not get assessed $500 to turn his road into a path. Okay, but we're not backing it out of the plans to turn it into a trail at the same time we do Bingham Road, which also helps us hopefully get the grant to turn it into a trail. That's the theory of this.
Correct. Right.
Yes. It's just not part of the SAD, it's still part of the road work.
Yeah, so the fellow that has his house is on Bingham Road, but he put in his drive to, instead of circling around to Bingham Road, entrance exit, it's also going to Timber Trail.
When that road, when this ever occurs, those bollards would be installed inside, if you will, further down the road, so he'd still be able to exit that. That would be just basically a turnaround spot for people to park and walk, I suppose, or something of that nature. Because we wouldn't want to cut his driveway off like
Yeah, I
that.
don't think we need to encourage people to park their cars there to walk on Timber Trail.
Probably not.
Can we not advertise that? Thank you. Okay.
Are we good?
I'm good.
Dirk's good?
Yeah, I've got
Do you
it.
have anything else to add?
I do not accept that there'll be a proposed resolution next month?
There
Is that
will,
right?
yes.
Okay, all right, and then.
To get the ball rolling.
I do have 1 or 2 more questions. Would you recommend having a public hearing at a council meeting or holding a separate meeting at another night? Or does it not matter?
It doesn't really matter because the first resolution is just to get the ball rolling. Then you have to hold a public hearing. The first public hearing here
Right.
in necessity.
Yeah.
And that's where you're going to make the call to whether to fish or cut bait, basically.
Okay.
If so people can come in at that public hearing.
Right.
But the next month will not be a public hearing.
No, I understood that.
It'll
I
be a
just
simple resolution to get the
wondering
ball
down the
rolling.
road, when we do hold the public hearing, if we should hold it during a council meeting or have a special evening?
You should hold it during the council meeting.
Okay, all right.
Will the amount of the SAD for each homeowner be known in that public hearing?
There will hopefully be an estimate, or at the public hearing, there needs to be an estimate. Obviously, you won't know the exact amount until you go out to bid, and that happens after the first public hearing, but there needs to be an estimate of it, yes.
So it may be less than 500, we don't know yet.
It
Or
could
more.
be. Or more.
Is there any more discussion on this?
Thank you.
My concern is that if we have more residents that can comfortably fit in this room that want to come to the public hearing.
I mean, I guess if we feel that it will be, then we'll have to make other arrangements. But, you know, where people can
We
wait out in the hall,
Do it in shifts?
come and speak.
We've also held meetings over at the library at the school.
Right, it's just I want to make sure we keep everything recorded, and this is by far the easiest.
Yeah, they would have to
Way to do
do
that.
a remote, yeah. They
Right.
could do it, but
Right. This is by far the best way to get everything recorded properly and that. So, I mean, we've had crowded meetings in here before, and, you know, some people might have to wait in the hall and shuffle in and out if they have something to say. We can make it work. Is there anything else? Okay. Thank you all for that. And Ken and Dirk for your work on that so far.
Thank you.
We're going to move to the treasurer's report. Bill?
Thank you. Good evening. Tonight we have 3 items under the treasurer's report. The first one is municipal credit and community credit contract for fiscal year 2025. We did the same thing every year. We did it last year. Basically, I wrote the memo. You have the actual contract in your packet. But what it is, it's credits that are from SMART, and then we as a village, you guys determine to, if you approve this resolution, to have them transfer those credits over to Next. For them to use for public transportation. We've done it last year. The only thing that's different this year is the dollar amount. The dollar amount for the total amount of credits is $2,854. And like I said, if you read through the memo and you read through actually the resolution, if the resolution is approved, then the village president signs the contract. I send it back in with the instructions of them to go ahead and transfer those credit funds directly to Next for them to use for transportation for residents within the village. Any questions?
Do you know if we've ever had a resident use that transportation allotment? Yeah? Good.
It's a wash, right?
Yes, I mean, it's exactly. There's no impact, but they give us the credit and we just tell them the method of what you guys as council approve under the resolution to transfer it to Next. And it's been like that. I look back in the file years and years that is what has been done. And again, not to say that, I mean, obviously you have to pass a resolution, but just as a form of history, going back, I looked, I don't know, 5-6 years, and it's always been, they give us the amount of credit. It changes, obviously, for the dollar amount of the credit, but we've always put it on to Next for the residents to be able to use that transportation.
Yes.
I would move the resolution in our packet.
Bill, could you pass me the resolution?
Sure.
I would move we approve the resolution in our packet.
Is there a second?
we'll second that.
Any further discussion? This is a roll call.
Blackburn,
Aye.
Hageman,
Aye.
Hedge, Howard,
Aye.
Jones,
Yes.
Craybill, Mashigian.
Aye.
All right, that passes 5-0 with 2 absences.
Thank you.
Okay. Next
Great.
is approving the bills for July 2024.
Yes. So the next one is a motion, as President indicated, for approving the bills for July 2024. For the dates for check disbursements from June 22nd, 2024 through July 19th, 2024. The general fund amount was $176,403.62. Under the disbursements for the same time frame, June 22nd, 2024 through July 19th, 2024, the Gas and Waiter Road Fund, there was a disbursement of $3,005 even, for a total of $179,408.62.
Is there a motion to approve the bills?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Last item, item C, accept the financial statements for June 2024. As in every council meeting, you have both the revenue and expenditure report. And I will tell you that obviously, we're at 12 months within the fiscal year, so we're at 100%. We are currently at 92.19% of the budget. Last year at this time, we were at 97.54. I will also point out to council that there are accruals, and this was as of this date of what's in the books right now. We do have some bills that are still trickling in that have some of it that's still billing for the last portion of June, some of it in July. Like I just got a DTE bill today that was like that. So there's a couple of those that are going to be still coming in. So it's not final, but it will be final when we close the books for the audit, which we are going to be starting earlier this year. My hope is to have it started in the middle of August so that we don't have to wait as long. But we're tracking and we're doing better than we did last year, and we will see what everything actually turns out as we close up and sew up the year for that fiscal year. The other thing that I wanted to just review is the investments for June 2024. They're listed both in the general fund and the road fund as they are every month. The one thing that I'll comment on is obviously since we came to the end of the year and we were using the funds there were funds that were in the local government investment pool from Oakland County on the general fund. That one decreased because I had to obviously transfer funds over to our checking account in order to pay the bills. But the total for the general fund of investments is still $3.275,784. We were down from where we were last month by about $237,000, but again, that was based upon all the bills that we paid for the occurrences of the daily operations for it. And in the road fund, we're still we're actually up and we're doing well. Those accounts are still gaining interest and moving forward. So if there's any questions that anyone has about either the budget portion or the investments, I'd be happy to address those.
Is there a motion to accept the financial statements for June 2024?
I motion to accept the financial statements as indicated.
Second.
Any discussion?
They did for last month, yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all of that. We're going to go through trustee comments. We'll start at the end.
Now that we've decided that Timber Trail will not be part of the road project per se, but will be a walking trail, it's maybe time to have one of the road advisory committee members come in and talk about the philanthropic possibilities. I mean, it could turn into the Howard Trail for all we know. Not really, but anyway, but it's not
I was
beyond.
going to say, if you want to throw us $300,000, go for it.
Bill will be more than happy to accept your check. right
Trustee
there.
Howard, did you bring your checkbook with you?
But I mean, I see all kinds of instances where there's paper blocks for people's names. Who knows what possibilities there might be? So this might be the opportunity to call in Maison and ask him to maybe get a little involved in some of those discussions or thoughts or ideas.
Oh, you're up to me. Met with the Birmingham Area Cable Board last week. They approved approximately $50,000 for a new camera for their remote systems. Also, they approved somewhere around $3,000 for Franklin Bingham Farms Fire Department for their internet. So, a little bit of help there.
Great.
I can report that Next and the city of Birmingham have moved from refurbishing the Y to doing a new build.
Wow.
Have they really?
The vote, they were going to meet tonight, well, they are meeting tonight, but the president and President Pro Tem were both out of town, and because of the IT problem, could not get their flights back home. And so, no decision, no vote tonight, but that's the conversation.
Wow.
Wow.
Good.
What are their millage, Kathy?
Yes. Yes. It was just a rollover of the millage. The three mills had been voted on years ago for schools. That ended at the last election, and what they did is just renew the 3 mills and designate it for next, for the construction, because it's a shared facility. Birmingham will also use it to a degree, so,
Okay, thank you for that.
yeah.
No comments.
No comments. I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Meeting adjourned at 8:25 PM.
Ooh.